All right, another Big Ten team that could be in the mix as well is the team that won 3 of the last 4 Big Ten championships and obviously made 3 of the last 4 college football playoffs, but they did not make it last year, and that is the Michigan Wolverines. So, again, Dalton, there's some question marks with this team, but they have, again, what should be a really good defense with Rod Moore coming back from injury as big time. Derek Moore at edge rusher is a really good edge. Rayshon Benny at D tackle, one of the top D tackles in the country. Yes, even after losing 2 first-round picks in Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, they have another really good defensive tackle and Rayshon Benny. The big reason why, Dalton, they might be a team to watch out for next year, though, they bring in one of the highest-rated quarterback recruits ever, and people think that Bryce Underwood might be the guy immediately for the next year.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in Mikey Keene, who's a solid player from Fresno State, but when you look at Mikey Keene and you compare him to Bryce Underwood and you look at the talent level, you sit there and wonder, do you have to play him? Do you kind of
pay $4 million to get him? Yeah.
Well, and I know Keene's a good experienced player who's done a lot of good things at UCF and at Fresno State, but it feels like that's kind of a conservative approach, right? He's a very conservative passer who works a lot underneath, and it feels like you almost feel like the offense would look the same way it did last year. It was so conservative, and the passing game was so held up by a lack of verticality, and now you don't even have Colston Loveland there at tight end. I mean, we have to talk about this passing game being the biggest X factor, but I'm with you. I think this defense makes them very, very dangerous. Rayshon Benny, TJ Guy, Jayshawn Barham, who I think they're going to use maybe a little more in an edge role this year. You mentioned Rod Moore coming back, Jair Hill at corner. You've got a lot of talented players. Jaden McBurrows at the nickel spot. I think Michigan's defense, per usual, is going to make them a dangerous team. What do we look like here philosophically on offense? Because let's be real. Underwood left his commitment, or soft, whatever it was, with LSU or those negotiations to go to Michigan, a place where statistically you would think he's not going to put up the freak numbers that he would at LSU, right? That's a much more passing-oriented offense, and maybe for the chance to start in his freshman year. But is Underwood alone good enough to add that vertical element that they need in this offense that was just completely missing last year? They couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards last year, right? I mean, the forward pass, it just in general was an issue. Does he raise the ceiling of this offense? You still have to like the running game. They brought Justice Haynes in there. They're always going to find ways to run the football. But that would be the biggest question. If they can complement the rest of this team with the passing game, their defense is going to make them really dangerous in the Big Ten. And look, at least when they're playing Ohio State head-to-head, they apparently still have the mental advantage there. So I think you have a lot. It's kind of like Florida for me a little bit. You have a lot of potential with Michigan, and they ended the year hot, especially the Alabama win in the bowl game with essentially their second-string guys was huge, I think, going into this season. But they have to figure out this passing game quick.
I mean, they have really a brand-new offensive line as well. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. The receiving core is still a major question mark, especially after losing a guy like Colston Loveland, who was really their entire offense last year when you think about it. So, yeah, Justice Haynes is a nice running back. You got Bryce Underwood, who's one of the highest-rated quarterbacks to ever come out of high school. But is that enough? Can Bryce Underwood, as a true freshman, elevate the rest of the offense? Because, again, I think it's the same question marks outside of really quarterback that we had last year, where it's like, okay, do they have the offensive line? Do they have the weapons? And it obviously didn't work out for them last year. Now you got a defense who they do lose some pieces defensively too. But like I said, they do bring back a lot of really talented players. But it's going to be interesting with Michigan next year. And really, it's just a matter of, okay, there's so much hype with Bryce Underwood. How much of it is warranted? How much of it can he be a Trevor Lawrence in his true freshman year where he goes out and is one of the best quarterbacks in America, wins the national title and all that? Probably not like at that level. And also, Lawrence had way more talent in that Clemson team than Michigan has right now. But how good is Underwood, right? Because you never know. With these guys that are so highly rated, they can come in and they can elevate you. I mean, we see it all the time in football. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the best supporting cast in Kansas City, but he elevates it, and they're competing for championships because of that. That's how good he is. Maybe Bryce Underwood for college football is the same thing. Maybe Bryce Underwood is that good of a player that he can elevate. Jaden Daniels did it last year with Washington. He could elevate everyone else. That's the big question mark. That's why they're here right now, is because this kid is talked about in that light of, hey, the highest rated guys we've ever seen at quarterback, he's up there with them. That's the big question is, okay, how good is this guy immediately? There's no doubt about his talent, but how ready is he to come in immediately and be in the Big Ten and be one of the top quarterbacks in the country?
Yeah, and look, again, the question we're asking on this show is not, can he win a national championship?
No.
I'm not picking Michigan to win a national title.
Neither am I.
Can they make a 12-team playoff? Again, can they get in that, let's say, even third place in the Big Ten competition? If Underwood were to hit the ceiling and be as good as everybody thinks he is that early, Yeah, absolutely. Because you look at him and you look at him potentially, honestly, I think that's something not said enough in the Big Ten right now. You have Drew Aller at Penn State, and then you have a lot of unproven or guys in new situations at quarterback. You have potentially Underwood as a true freshman, Dante Moore at Oregon, right?
Yep.
We don't know what's going on at Ohio State yet, if it's Julian Sayin or whoever that may be. Indiana's got Fernando Mendoza. Altmaier maybe is the second most stable guy right now that we know the most about, but the Big Ten does not have a lot of quarterback stability, so if he comes in there and hits the ceiling, you make an argument that, between him, maybe Dylan Raiola too at Nebraska's got a boatload of talent, but you could argue that within the next year and a half that Underwood could easily be the best quarterback in the conference.
Yeah, and listen, we talk about all the time is, your supporting cast might not be great, but a quarterback can elevate that so quickly.
Sure.
Like if Michigan had one last year, who knows how good they would have been last year, right? If you had a top 10 quarterback, or who knows how good they would have been, that's the question mark, is how good is Bryce Underwood immediately? There's no doubt he probably will have a successful career in college football, but is he ready day one to be the guy for Michigan next year? That's going to be the big question with them. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.